to take it out, though.
Welcome to Samadhi Game. Tonight is a late night, Thursday night broadcast, and we have with us Stephen Martzoff and Barbara Forche joining Robbie and I. And we'd like to...
No, all of us.
Barbara...
I can sit right here.
No, you have to... In between. Come on.
Right here.
No, right here. Right
Steve,
here.
maybe you can grab her one of those chairs
No,
up
she
there.
can sit right here.
And she can sit... Yeah, she can sit right
I
there.
can sit there.
Okay.
I can sit on the edge.
Yeah, here,
Where
Barbara.
can you see him better?
Come on,
'Cause
Barbara.
He's the guest of honor.
No, the only reason I was here because I can't read.
Here, I can turn it like this,
He's
Steve.
got this here, so I'll be
Steve, I can see it. There we go.
We're getting organized.
I'm getting less limber in my old age. I got to start doing more yoga.
There we are. Is everyone comfortable? Is
Yeah.
We're
everyone?
getting close. Look at that camera catches all four of us.
Yeah, it can happen. Tonight, I named the show about compassion to all sentient beings, humans and animals. And all week long, we've been working with, for the last week, Robbie especially has been working with my sister in some ways, trying to resonate this idea of compassion for animals. And one of the best ways of resonating that compassion for animals is to go within and find the compassion in yourself. And one of the reasons that most people can't find that compassion for themselves or for animals is because they don't have any tools for it. Samadhi Game is a way of having some tools to do some things that normally in our daily life we just gloss over. We need to find a way to break through that dual human ego that is so effective at keeping us bound in its grip. And Samadhi Game gives us the affirmations that allow us to do that. It also gives some ways to look at the dual human ego that, unless you have them, it's quite a daunting process to do that. Steve, that's an introduction to tonight, but I also want to introduce Steve Martzoff to you all. Steve Martzoff is a great friend for the last 5 years. We met at Whole Foods, and he kept coming back to Whole Foods and asking me more and more questions, and his sincerity and his awesomeness of wanting to engage in the path of enlightenment just bonded us in a way that only happens when you meet someone who is as equally as passionate about finding enlightenment as yourself. There is very few people on this planet that actually will give up everything to find enlightenment, to find the truth of their heart expressed. Steve is one of those people.
I am?
You are.
I is. Okay, I accept that.
Come on, I thought you knew that about yourself. I thought I was telling you the obvious. All of us here are passionate, and in some way, otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here in front of this camera talking about Samadhi Game. And anyone who tunes into this broadcast, we want to dedicate this broadcast not only to the sentient beings of animals and other humans around the planet that are having a hard time, but also to you. This is an opportunity for you to reach into your heart and feel the essence of your being. Today, Steve and I took a beautiful hike up the Sandias and had time to really relish in the light and the scents and the textures and the fire ants that bit me all over my leg.
Really?
Yeah. I was bending down looking at and trying to get a really great shot, and they crawled up my leg and then underneath my sock and
Somebody else
had
has
at it.
joined them.
No,
And this is
Marlena
Marlena.
loves
Marlena
Steve.
loves
She
to be
loves
along.
Samadhi Game.
Yeah,
She does. She
loves
does.
it.
She does. She knows where the camera is.
No,
everything.
don't
She
mix
does.
it.
She knows. She does. She knows where the camera is.
She wants
But
to be on.
she'll move it
Yes.
around.
That's why her name's Marlena Dietrich.
Yeah. So, and we had the opportunity to relish in that refined atmosphere as you go up in elevation up the mountains. Don't you feel it? Don't you?
It's incredible. I love that. I love living at elevation. I don't live at elevation, but I know I would enjoy living at higher elevations
Yeah.
because I've always loved climbing. And a lot
Yeah.
of
Well, there's something about the rarefied atmosphere. There's sort of, I guess, a density of the human consciousness that weighs itself down onto the planet, and the lower elevations get more of that weight. The higher you go in the atmosphere, the more rarefied the vibrations become. And I think that's one of the reasons why people come to New Mexico, to see the rarefied light and to breathe that really rarefied air. A lot of artists come here and, and enjoy that light. So,
Let's do mantra.
okay,
Mantra.
all right.
I say mantra, you say.
Mantra.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of where you're from.
I like it that you say mantra. It's a mantra. I'm going to have to spin all the way back. I didn't do this. We ended up last time at the sort of like the end of the book. So I'm spinning all the way back to the front because I'd like to start with that divine identity. Samadhi game is divided into 5 chapters. The first one is divine identity.
We are focusing on the poachers and having them have a peaceful heart that they don't want to cut off the noses
Or
of those elephants or the
the
horns.
tusks of
Yeah, no,
elephants
but they're
or
not
rhinos.
like just cutting off tusks like us. We cut off nails, which they could, but instead they just rip the whole trunk and nose off. Horrible.
Yeah, some of
both.
those pictures on Facebook.
It's
are
the
just
truth, though.
awful. And then the work your sister and your niece are doing.
I know.
I want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I do. I acknowledge that. In fact, that's what Robbie all week has been working to resonate with that and share a lot of their pieces.
This has been going on 20 years, but now we have to stop it because there's 1,300 left in the world.
Is that all? 1,300?
Elephants or what?
Elephants, and there's 2,300 rhinoceroses. The rest are in zoos
Hmm.
Wow.
and poachers. So if we can resonate to the poachers to have some compassion.
Okay, so
You know who else is doing this too? Is they just had a baby in England. You know, the prince.
oh
Prince
that's right.
Harry
Yeah, he's
Okay.
really into it too.
and,
He
and
He
William.
did a documentary on it.
William.
That's really nice.
Oh, nice.
Prince
nice
Harry
to know.
did the document, the younger one, right?
The one that had the baby.
Really? William did?
That was
Yeah,
William.
that's his
Really?
his cause
Mm.
too. And he showed a person that works in trying to protect the animals, and how heartbroken he is.
So it's
Wow.
fitting that Marlene is with us tonight on this
Kitty
broadcast.
cat who stares at something.
She sees something outside. She
William.
smells something. Oh, she hears something.
Well, it's getting windy.
Yeah.
The wind is. Hey, it's blowing fresh.
That kind of when we can all have that kind of attunement, that kind of sensitivity to the elements, the fire, the air, the water, and the earth, and be cultured in that sensitivity. And so when we give these mantras, we're upping the ante, we're upping our sensitivity to the light. Let's go ahead and give the shadowless light of samadhi its feeling, tone, and state of knowing. I think everyone can see it there. Okay, so here we go. Together. O glorious shadowless light of eternity, that brilliance of I am samadhi, shining in the void as 10,000 suns, descend, 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 as the tangible substance of loving splendor, dazzling intelligence and palpable power, for all to absorb and identify with, as the full and only authority throughout the earth, the boundless treasure house of the universe, and our infinite I am samadhi, of scintillating fire and dazzling light. That I am. I release the power of mastery without limit now, revealing the self and flooding forth perfect miracles into all activities, bringing to pass the enlightenment of the ages, and letting every being on earth sense and surrender to the intimacy of this light. Everywhere, the fullness of this self expanding as love, wisdom, and joy forever. Now, great songs of praise and gratitude burst forth from the heart of humanity for that silent splendor poured out to all. Now, pure love flows forth from the heart of the secret love star, drenching the earth with the glory and ecstasy of golden pink liquid light. Now, the oneness of supreme love, wisdom, and blazing joy overwhelms this world of duality in its glowing orb of transmutation, reconciliation, and dominion, making of terror a smiling sun of everlasting, all-powerful, limitless light, casting no shadow, and in which only that absolute perfection can forever dwell. Now, I am limitless gifts of all good things, anointing the earth with abundance, healing, and happiness for all mankind. O presence of a shadowless light throughout the great silence, we identify with thee now. I am the elation and exhilaration, freedom and liberation of this eternal experience and gnosis of samadhi. Its ecstatic hearing, blissful feeling, cosmic scent, sublime taste, and immaculate vision, holding all safely within that compassionate diamond heart forever. I intensify this feeling tone of I am shadowless light, in acknowledgement, acceptance, and awareness, surrender, devotion, and adoration, for this state of knowing that, this all-pervading I am samadhi, the intelligence of the heart that is divine illumination. I, and here if you have a name for yourself, shout it out now. A great name, an ascended name, an enlightened name, or appellation. Am awake, as is the ascended Master Jesus, to this shadowless light, its feeling tone and state of knowing. That I am that never sleeps and enjoys all, now and forever. So what we're doing is we're culturing our consciousness so that it might resonate more with the divine source within. This isn't it, but it is within you. And by giving these mantras, it takes us a little closer to it. That's all it's doing. But it's a big thing that it's doing, because it's very seldom within the world marketplace that anyone is directed to it, this place of samadhi, this heart of gold, this Christ consciousness, this Krishna consciousness, this Buddha consciousness. It's rare. And so these words help to align us with that consciousness. That's the point of samadhi game mantras. And as you give them, you start to develop a momentum on their understandings, rather than just a momentum on the understanding of finances in your life, or the understanding of social relationships with other people, or the understanding of how to take care of animals. It goes much deeper than that. And because of that, the core of what we're doing actually has more power. They say that Yogananda used to say that that the greatest activity or activism that you could do was to place yourself closer to your divine source. Greater than going out and carrying a placard and saying, I'm for the protection of animals, which we're doing tonight. We're doing both
But how do
tonight.
you help
Well,
with just becoming closer to your divine self?
because as you become closer to that divine self, you gain in power.
But
you
how do you
shift,
help the fellow being?
and you shift consciousness. Consciousness is being shifted. And in order to get closer to that divine being that you are, you have to make decisions and choices that weed out the dual human ego and allow you to say, this is who I really am, which is rarely done. That person who you really are just wouldn't choose to kill an animal for sport.
So if everybody does that same thing,
Mm-hmm.
then we're acting in tandem rather than as a single unit, as the Christ. Because
Don't
we
quite
all
understand that.
okay, so you are above, so you don't have to hold a placard.
You're conscious.
You become
Consciousness.
one with yourself. But how are you going to help the people who are poaching?
Well, we're doing it right now.
No, I know, but
We're-
they
we're-
have
Like
to.
praying for them.
Yes,
Yeah, we're praying for them, and so that they become
Yeah.
enlightened to feel that conscious self inside them.
Exactly.
So it resonates.
The sensitivities that are necessary in order to make a decision to give up using ivory, or to give up feeling the rush of excitement when they take that shot at an element and drop them to the floor, in the wild, or a lion, or a Mustang. I mean, it's all over the world, this canned hunting, and it's horrific. But you can go to someone's face who's doing it and say, "Don't do it,"
But
and they'll go,
Unless they see it in you.
"All right,
They won't feel it.
no worries,"
But how do you
and they'll
change
turn around,
them?
they'll go home, and then they'll plan their next trip.
How do you change
They
them?
change them by changing consciousness.
Is it becoming you become
is-
the air you breathe?
You become the air. If the air you breathe is the samadhi game mantras, then yes, you do. You become that sensitivity, and that sensitivity that we open the door for, someone has to do it. Someone has to open the door to the sensitivity of the soul that can make the decision and say, I'm not going to shoot that animal. I'm not going to buy that piece of ivory that I know was ripped from the face of a rhinoceros, one of the last remaining rhinoceros, even though it's a gorgeous piece crafted by an amazing artist in
and it's
China.
going to make me so virile.
Or I'm not going to take the substance at the root of that rhinoceros horn that would make them have a great sexual life.
For what? For
you know,
3 hours?
For 3 hours at the loss of an entire species. So there are sensitivities that come, and it happens with all of our life and all of the different aspects of it. At least that's how I see it. I'm sure that you all have opinions too, but I was taught by one of my teachers was Yogananda, and I believe that his words there were very true. The best thing you can do if you want to be an activist is be an activist yogi, practicing a way that takes you closer to the core of your own being, that will open up sensitivities not only for you, but because you had to make hard decisions in order to get closer to your being. You had to say no to this and yes to this, which is a hard thing because you had to overcome a momentum that allowed you to hold on to the dual human ego. Over and over again, we hold on to that dual human ego. But once you start making that decision to choose God, choose the neutral witness, choose the Christ consciousness.
Your testimony pays it forward.
It's the vibration of your oneness with spirit, your oneness with the divine within you, the I am, that will change not only your own life and the people in your family and the people around you, but the planet as a whole, because we are all one. And so each one of us that makes that decision helps the planet as a whole. And so
People have to see that it's so simple that it's not untouchable.
It's very simple what we're doing here. And that's why I believe that Samadhi Game is a world-changing momentum. And it gives a simple tool. So many teachers will take you to a very profound and deep, silent meditation. And then you'll sit in that meditation, you'll listen to them, and you'll get very carried away about the beauty of what they say. And it's true.
But it's untouchable.
But how long can we hold to that consciousness before our consciousness goes, God, I'm hungry. I wonder what's for dinner. or before you say, gosh, I wonder who's my soulmate, or I wonder how the next paycheck's coming to support my home. Those are all issues of the dual human ego, rather than this deep conscious being that we are. And because it's so pressing to us in this physical octave, we think we have to act from the dual human ego to survive. In just actuality, acting from the Christos, from this neutral witness, is what brings us survival, brings us longevity, brings us peace, brings us a harmonious, peaceful planet with all species protected in the ark of the Lord's
I just wish
will.
that the people could see, like, how in the Bible they say they saw the glory of the Lord and they fell upon their knees. Like, I just wish that people could see peace and happiness and actually feel it.
Well, I think that's what I think that's a great wish. And as you give these mantras are celebrations.
I mean, what's the other option to these poachers? You pay the poachers off so they don't kill the elephants, but then they're gonna ransom you. I want more now. I mean, you can protect the elephants, but someone's gonna. How do we stop the hatred and the killing?
I encourage. I encourage all. Go ahead.
Tell me.
Just when I heard that, it occurs to me that we're all teachers and we're all students.
At the same simultaneously.
And we're teaching by demonstration.
Yes.
It's the only effective way. Who we are is somehow read by one another.
Yeah, you become the air you breathe.
Yeah, and it seems to me that the only way to make that happen is I must become that. I must be that, and then I'm an example of it.
That's true.
And it won't be my words that will convince somebody to do whatever action they choose to take. But it'll be that place somehow. I think when we go to that place where the place of samadhi, that Atman, that one, the Christ consciousness, when we're there, that's what we're teaching.
Yes.
We're demonstrating it. And people see that. If they imagine when someone sees someone, maybe
being kind.
Maybe or somebody attacks me or attacks someone who because I'm not there yet. They attack someone who can stay in that place, and the person doesn't respond with the normal ego attack of, well, what do you mean, you attack me in this. Instead, they come, they stay in that place. Yeah, it's got to do, it doesn't mean
Means that you're wimpy.
It doesn't mean wimpy at all. See, it's and everybody wants to see it's possible to not have to respond with judgment and making someone wrong. We make someone wrong, we are fully in duality. That's pure ego.
Mm-hmm.
The Atman, the Christ consciousness, doesn't know wrong, cannot do that. So that's the beauty to me of this kind of thing.
Yes.
Even if it's for only a moment, and but a moment in that space.
Yes, even a moment
Is very
yes.
powerful.
Yes.
I think, and then later on, start one more catch oneself more quickly when we know we're not in it. Oh shit!
These are momentums. These are momentums that are established over embodiments, or if you don't believe in reincarnation, even in a lifetime, you can feel yourself being trained to certain ways of acting. You can feel that, and that entrainment of conscious action takes on momentum, and it takes something to change the momentum. It takes a Superman to stand there and say stop, and hold back a speeding locomotive. And that Superman is that neutral witness. It is that neutral witness. And to develop a conscious awareness of neutral witness is the idea of the Samadhi mantras. So let's go ahead and give another mantra. This is a mantra that protects us. We can also visualize this protective envelope of light, not only around us, but around all the animals that we want to protect, the elephants, the rhinos, the mustangs, the lions, all around, all the children in the world that are suffering. You can see that this mantra isn't just for me. It's not just for you. It's for everyone to be ensconced in that shining light as though they were emanating as a star. So let's go ahead and now change back to the mantras. We'll put it up here on the screen for you, and we'll give these mantras together. Join us when we do these mantras together, even over the distances that we're separated in time and space here between where you are and where we are. There's a resonance that's established in the ideas, in the sounds that we say, and change is occurring. Okay, let's give these mantras. Opening pillar of light, the pillar of the world. Together. Sublime I am, Samadhi that I am. Enfolding me now in that mighty, magic, electronic pillar of cosmic light substance. My identification with its magnificent humility and thoughtful creativity, so powerful and complete, that I artfully and magically alter every polarity with healing unity. Within this majestic pillar of light blazes that love as the violet, compassionate flame. In, through, and around my etheric, mental, emotional, and physical bodies, effortlessly dissolving, consuming, transmuting, and reconciling the dualities of my human ego, charging my world and all I contact with the tangible substance, living awareness, and conscious activity, the presence and superconscious samadhi of all enlightened beings, liberated and ascended masters, seeing, feeling, and hearing this light as it shines, radiates, and resonates within me as a visible pillar of the world, stabilized, supported, and sustained by the brilliant, elegant one, and infinitely sensitive to that invulnerable state of divine I am Samadhi. Let's give the Om together. Because everyone knows the Om. Let's put us on the screen, and we'll give this together. Finishing off the mantra with its last affirmation. Eternity is my home. I do all that is necessary to actualize this ever-fresh realization and organize my life around it. Eternity is my home. I do all that is necessary to actualize this ever-fresh realization and organize my life around it. Eternity is my home. I do all that is necessary to actualize this ever-fresh realization and organize my life around it. Thank you so much for joining us in that. I wanted to welcome our guests and also Jenny. Jenny Sandlin was an employee at 20 Carats Natural Foods Market many, many years ago. And Jenny would probably remember the mornings that we would have mantras playing at 20 Carats all morning long while we set up everything. The idea was to saturate everything in 20 Carats, this natural foods market that I owned back in the 80s and 90s, and to saturate the walls with the sounds, the vibrations that have effect on consciousness and on matter. The idea was to use these ancient mantras. I particularly like the mantras of Kuan Yin. I don't know if you remember those, Jenny. But we would do these mantras in the morning as we made the soups, the salads, the sushis, set up all of the condiments and things of that nature. Anyway, I'm enjoying the fact that you're there online and welcoming you. And our guests, if you don't know it already, you can sign in to Ustream. It's a painless process, and you can get your own username there. And once you have a username, then your name also will show up in the list of people that are signed in to the broadcast. There's often people that are not signed into the broadcast that don't even show up on our screen, but welcome to you. And know this, that we have Samadhi Game mantras on Thursday night at 10:30 p.m., that's Mountain Time, and Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time. That's when we start the music at 10 o'clock and on Thursday nights, and the actual affirmations at 10:30. On Saturday morning, we have a little bit longer music period. It goes for about an hour so that people can kind of warm up to it. And the affirmations start at 8:30. So join us there. Also, just to let you know, there's a free download of the Samadhi Game Manifesto of Enlightenment, and it is available at samadhigame.com. And you'll find the links there that have, there's just a small form. You fill out who you are and where you live, so we get a demographic idea of who's taking the downloads. And it's free, and you can put it on your iPad, your iPod, and there's a PDF version for computers. So play with that and see how that works for you. And play with the Samadhi Game mantras. I encourage you to go through the different chapters. We're doing mantras tonight from the chapter 1, which is Divine Identity. Thank you for the waters. And
not the best at carrying glasses, but
thank you so much. We're doing most of our mantras from chapter 1, which is really concerning divine identity. Chapter 2 of Samadhi Game concerns really fleshing out what is the dual human ego. We use the enlightenment with squares technique to do that. It's an easy way of charting the dual human ego. Otherwise, what happens? Does anyone ever think about the dual human ego in a very structured way? Do you, Steve? It kind of comes and goes.
no, it's usually hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
you can do it while you're in the moment, that's pretty raw. That's pretty raw.
It is pretty raw. In fact, I highly suggest if you're in the moment, if you can. This is a hard one. It's even hard for me, but if you're in the middle of an upheaval of some sort,
Do that matrix thing where they stop,
Yeah.
and then you can look at 360. How do I want to do this? And then you go back and you replace yourself without having to go backwards and make the mistake. I mean,
Exactly.
recorrect the mistake.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, that's actually what you're doing with the Samadhi Game, the ESP process, which stands for Enlightenment with Squares process. You can chart out the fears and the desires which make up the dual human ego. And that is tremendously helpful, so the dual human ego doesn't become a hidden ghost in our consciousness, but it becomes something that's alive, and you can see it. And it becomes our friend, because it's the dual human ego that actually we utilize as the tool of the expression of the gift that we give gone in this embodiment. Anything that you do comes from the dual human duality. You're using duality at all times. A great artist knows how to play with color And they're playing with the dualities of color. They're not just putting one color up there as a neutral color. They're playing with all the dualities, the contrasts. The same thing, when we can contrast our consciousness, then we start to become artists of consciousness rather than just, blank, one-dimensional beings that are easily susceptible. One-dimensional beings are easily pegged and put into the box of the mundane dual human ego consciousness and controlled and manipulated. And that's why the ESP process is so powerful. It gets you out of that state of being controlled and manipulated and allows you to become an artist or a healer. Because healers also use that yin-yang flow for each individual that they see to create a healing process. So let's go on, give some more of the mantras.
Yeah, but wait,
Go
Steve,
ahead.
what were you going to say about that?
Go ahead.
Well,
About, we're saying of dual human, being able to stop what you're thinking.
oh, I was going to say that that the only time that I think I'm making progress is when I see how much more quickly I catch myself when I've lost it, when I've gone fully into the ego state, and then and once I name it, if I name it, I don't have to do anything about it. I just let it go. It's not like I have to.
You just say ego? Or
You
what-
identify
how do
it
you-
and
how do you
allow
name
it to happen?
Oh, I mean, I just see it just like, I'm driving my car and I'm listening to some wonderful music, spiritual music, whatever, and all of a sudden somebody does something silly and I'm immediately like, hey, screw you. And I just go right out of this place I was in so fast. And then I have to just, but much more
But do you allow
quickly
yourself
catch
just to go in
myself.
there?
That never happens to
Yes.
me.
Never.
Yeah, and I don't judge
And there's no
myself.
spit marks on the windshield, right?
I'm learning to not beat myself up afterwards.
Right.
For
You
losing
just
it,
allow
not
it to
judging
happen.
myself, allowing it to happen.
That's
Character-
forgiveness
Then I catch
70
it.
times 7.
Yeah, you catch it, and then so.
But you don't
so I
take, you
I don't
allow
live with it as
yourself to
long.
happen without hurting someone else. Like, you're not going to stop and go, like, put a pistol to the guy's head or, but you allow yourself to
Exactly.
get angry and then say, that happened.
Well, I might have been being a bad driver today. I had my blinker on. I forgot to turn it off.
Glad you didn't
How
come by.
dare you?
And this guy came next to me, and he was really kind. And he was like, somehow he motioned to me that my blinker was on by my side, and it was very kind
That's-
of him. He went even a step further.
Yeah, a good example right there. So he just.
Because you're a
Oh, my
blonde.
God. No, she's
Driving
just so
down the street.
adorable.
Yeah, you're
He
adorable.
was
That was her
just being
sin for the
kind,
day.
you
Her
know, I mean,
blinker was
being-
on.
Just
Aw,
that idea
I
of just
love
being
her.
kind that Barbara just mentions.
Yeah.
Isn't that powerful?
It is.
It is.
We forget just, hey, do what normal people do. Don't try to be some kind of spiritual, and just try to be kind.
Kindness, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind in the sense of, and then we have to do that. I must be kind with myself,
Yes.
and that's usually the hardest for me in my life. I think I'm far more self-judgmental, which results in judging others, but it's not the others.
It's hard to be
just
kind
us.
if you deny yourself the graces of living, of air and sun and sleep and food. So you have to be kind with yourself. You have to be nourishing with yourself. It's part of the way of the Divine Mother, taking on all of the elements of nature, of breathing deeply and resting, and now you have the capacity to open up in that heart and be kind. So let's do heartfelt, tangible samadhi. Let's go into the heart, feel the heart, and feel the essence of the heart as it. Now, the idea of these mantras is to put you into a place where you can go, and it's late on the East Coast. For those of you who are joining us on the East Coast, if we do too much of that, you're just going to fall asleep.
I find it very stimulating. I can't sleep after I do these.
So you really.
Really?
They're good for me in the morning because then I get going.
Okay. Well, let me say there's two axioms of the spiritual path, and that is doing your mantras and your meditations either early in the morning as you come out of sleep, or doing them late at night as you go into sleep. Taking the affirmation of being into sleep and letting it sort of rile you
Work
up a
your
little
dreams.
bit, work your dreams, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of violence, to get to that place where you can feel the neutral witness or that
Because
God
digging
self.
you have to dig the earth in order to plant. So it's a little bit of
Yeah.
unearthing.
What do you mean when you say that violence thing?
Actually,
Just looking at you.
that's a quote from Yogananda. Actually, Yogananda says,
Well,
at
digging
times
the
you have
earth
to
is
do
pretty violent.
when you're putting out, for instance, if you're putting out a fire, an oil rig fire, you don't put it out with a fire hose.
No, you can't.
You have to take a charge of dynamite and set it at the base of the oil rig, and then set off that dynamite, and boom, it puts it out. So sometimes it takes a little bit of violence, and sometimes you have to do that with yourself. You have to
Well,
say,
it's shock.
it's shock, and you have to say, I'm going to shock myself. I'm going to stay up tonight, and I'm going to do these mantras, even though I feel like I want to fall asleep. I mean, come on. I've worked all day today, and I've hiked to the top of the Sandia Mountains, and I had a client this morning, and whatever, and this whole thing, and I could just as soon just go to bed or
Deserve to
turn
kick
on the
back and veg
television.
out.
Oh,
Veg
we're
out.
going to stay up
Soon.
all night.
No, we're not.
meditating?
No. No, Gregory can.
I think that's a good idea.
Why don't
tonight.
let Gregory do it? No, we have 1, 2. We're
gonna have a
three
marathon?
spaces. No, we can all. Oh no, I have 3. I have lots of blankets. Let him do it, and we'll just call him the Christ tonight. How's that?
This is heartfelt, tangible samadhi. Giving these mantras together creates a
Yeah.
resonance, which and the thought, and that's not just the
No,
sound
'cause tomorrow
frequency.
is the 4th. We have to really put it out there.
This is not just a sound frequency, it's also the imaging and the conscious awareness of these thought forms, which have power. Thoughts have power, so we're creating thoughts, and these thoughts are unified because we're saying them together. So if you can allow yourself to feel into them and feel the heart as we give these, that's the yoga of this. Let's go.
Oh, great spirit.
Almighty I am Samadhi at the center of all creation, radiant with illuminating fire. O heartfelt parent of all sons and sons, pour forth that life-giving power and fan the spark of that divinity on the altar of my heart. Amplify and magnify this spark by the fire breath of the whole I Spirit into the potent God flame that I am. O the shimmering fountain of life that I hear, feel, smell, taste, and see within me. I choose this constant cascade of liquid light, actively receiving its shimmering directive radiance, tangibly and powerfully manifest in my experience. I open the innermost temple of love within this evident, ebullient, celestial, cosmic fire. I manifest that life and light for our healing and regeneration, letting the breadth, height, fullness, and crown of the solar radiance of the sun behind the sun appear. I stand forth. Revealed in and through me is the neutral witness that Christos, Krishna, Buddha, Allah, Pharaoh, Monarch, Divine Mother, Father, Sun conscious awareness. Let me just take a second and just say, we're trying to embrace every religious way of saying God within you. And nobility within you. That's why we bring in this pharaoh monarch idea. We want to have you feel the strength, the strong spine, the scepter of authority that's in your hand. So we say pharaoh monarch, so you can feel that pharaoh consciousness, rather than just being a peon in the footstool kingdom. No, we are all sons and daughters of God. Come on, let's affirm it. I am the visible, audible, and tangible flame of eternal life, breathing the scintillating prana-chi from the source to the root of my being, liquid rays of light, flooding my chakras, seated upon their lotus thrones of love, molten gold of enlightenment, shivering its ascension up my spine, crowning my awareness with the diamond rays of attainment. Now, if you were giving this mantra right there, those are the images of this breath as it moves down the front side of the body, down to the perineum, and as you breathe out, you can feel this shiver up the spine. This is a really ancient core breathing technique. It's taught in all the great yoga schools of India, and many even in the West and in Egypt. So by doing this simple breath, you can become aware of the tensions in the body and release them. And tune in to that point that is between the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath, that point of equilibrium between the two, which is the Sushumna. It's that core flow of light, that river of light down the center of being, the middle. That's why oftentimes you see people praying like this and going, because they're emphasizing that central channel rather than the caduceus flowing of yin and yang. So let's go ahead and just go on. Take to this sometime and do the breath. We won't do it tonight. We'll just roll through the instruction on the breath there for you and continue on with the mantra. As the white fire beam of my heart, I dynamically emanate and transmit this audible, tangible, fragrant, delectable, and visible substance of living samadhi as creativity and direction. I am a sun in the palace of the shining void, this temple a glistening world of infinite space, the process of my transformations, sounding the melodies, harmonies, and rhythms of the great solar symphony. I am the dazzling flame of life, here and now, because I am nowhere else but everywhere, forever. I am Samadhi's palpable joy, tactile glory, and felt perfection of boundless being. I am that, I am that, I am that. I am, and here you can say your name, a great name. You can just say your given name if you'd like, but say it with nobility. Or you can say something like this: the Ascended Master Gregory Donald Brinkley, living super yogi brilliance. You can get really over the top, you know.
What's yours?
Me.
I am, and then again.
An embodiment.
I am, and one more time, saying it. An
Island
embodiment,
goddess.
and an, oh, go ahead and say it.
What is it?
Barbara Island, goddess of divine order.
That's
Right
right,
on.
right on. And Steve, have you got any ideas?
I am Stephen Wesley Martzoff, divine being.
Power and joy externalized.
I'll take it. Power and joy externalized.
I mean, that's what I feel from you.
Yes.
But you know, so what we want to do is
And me?
Come
What
on,
am
babe.
I?
Come
You
on.
tell me.
No, well, you can. Joy and love,
Light.
essence,
Roberta
Affection.
Nicole Brinkley.
affectionate love
Affectionate.
personified.
Love personified.
That's it.
Affectionate love personified.
Personified. And what happens? Let me take us back to us all here, just so that we can see
You're just big hug.
the idea of this. It's real simple. You know, we everyone says, "Hey, Gregory, Steve, Barbara." That's the name that's been called to us. And when they say that name, they're thinking, I think I know who Barbara is. She lives within this certain confine of consciousness. And Steve, he's just this guy who lives a certain way. And Gregory, he's just that kind of person. You know, and there becomes a thought form around your name that becomes limiting in the eyes of other people. Oftentimes, that's, you know, in spiritual circles, sometimes that's called black magic. And we're all privy to it. Everyone's doing it. And so what we want to do is take the initiative and say, I am greater, bigger, more dynamic than I ever thought I was.
Than the name given.
Than the name given to me that carries not only what everyone else thinks about me, but what I think about myself and who I thought I was for all these years of my life. So we say the name. Let's go on.
An
An embodiment, an embodiment, an embodiment. I am oneness lived.
Great. What
So,
a nice night. It was beautiful.
yeah, it's a great way of sharing our spiritual essence together. So
Now it's 11:11.
that's a great number.
Yeah.
10, 11, 11.
11:11.
A lot of-
10, 11.
No,
Time.
no, it's time. 10.
What is today? What's the date today?
the 3rd?
Okay,
10,
so
3rd.
10, 3, 11,
13, which is an 8 day. So anyway, let's go on and give another mantra.
Really?
We're giving these mantras in a way that create this resonance, and we're giving them together, which create a resonance across time and space. Join us here for the, let's go on to one that Robbie really likes a lot.
Encircle me now.
This is going to be my
encircle me
last
now,
one. I have to
encircle
go.
me now.
after
Okay,
this one.
after this we'll close the show. Everyone's probably.
We have to
Well, I
get.
just have.
That was it.
What's that?
It ended.
No, I'm just going to stop the broadcast and